Security cameras from around the world are capturing frightening new footage of people collapsing in spasms on the ground in what may be the latest symptoms of exposure to the COVID-19 vaccines. One America's Pearson Sharp has more.
One America News has extensively covered the dangers of the experimental chemical injections the government is calling the COVID vaccine. From heart attacks and strokes to paralysis, neuropathy, and explosive increase in cancer, autoimmune diseases, and even sudden death, with young, healthy people in the prime of their lives simply falling down dead. The list of fatal side effects from these injections is truly stupefying. Well, now there are videos emerging of a terrifying new condition that's popping up all over the world. What you're looking at now is footage from security cameras that shows people suffering from the effects of some mysterious attack on their bodies. In every case, it follows the same pattern. The affected person stops what they're doing and looks around as if they hear something, slowly turning their head. Then they start flailing their arms and legs, kicking and thrashing like they're fending off some invisible attacker. This is followed by collapsing on the ground in a convulsion, writhing and twisting in uncontrollable spasms. The incidents of this bizarre and frightening new malady have come out of nowhere, and now it's being captured by CCTVs around the world. Now, to be fair, it's not clear if this vaccine death spiral is linked to the CCP injections. But when you consider the alarming number of other gruesome side effects from this vaccine, it's not hard to believe. As far as we can tell, this has never been witnessed before. And if that's the case, then we have to consider what could be responsible. Now let's think. What's the biggest new variable the world has seen in the last 2 years? Well, if you're not a brain-dead member of the Branch Covidian Fauci cult, then the answer is simple. Nearly 70% of the world has submitted to the COVID injections. That's 5.3 billion people whose bodies are now struggling to adapt and overcome the so-called vaccine's toxic effects. And now we're seeing the results firsthand. Peer-reviewed studies show a staggering 94% of COVID injection recipients have abnormal blood that no longer functions normally. This is a picture of what normal, unvaccinated blood looks like at 40 times magnification and was taken by doctors in Italy studying the blood of patients injected with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. Now here we have the same patient just 1 month after getting the Pfizer injection. You can clearly see the blood has been drastically altered, with researchers saying the vast majority of patients they studied suffered severe blood cell deformation after taking the vaccine. The researchers say metallic objects that resembled graphene oxide and other compounds, like you see here, were discovered floating in the blood. The scientists said they found extraordinarily anomalous substances in the blood, which began forming gigantic foreign structures. The researchers concluded by saying these results have never been observed before in any vaccines, ever. And that Pfizer and Moderna need to come clean about exactly what they're putting in the vaccines. They added that the substances in the vaccines are incompatible with normal blood flow. Those gigantic foreign structures seen under the microscope are wreaking havoc on the human body, and now coroners and embalmers around the country are discovering horrifying clots inside people's bodies. What you're looking at are the mysterious clots that are suddenly appearing in vaccinated people who later died, and medical experts say this is totally new. They've never seen anything like it until last year. Lab tests show the clots are made from something other than human blood. And embalmers say they're showing up in otherwise healthy people who suddenly died from heart attacks or strokes, and when they were examined, their veins and arteries were completely clogged with these strange rubbery fibers that can be several feet long. Even the young and healthy can be affected, like a teenage athlete in Ohio who suffered from a sudden pain in his legs and back and was rushed to the emergency room where doctors removed a mysterious 6-foot-long clot from his legs. After finding these massive clots, it's not surprising the FDA is withholding autopsy results from people who died after getting the Fauci vaccines. That's right. The FDA is actually refusing to release autopsy results of victims who received the experimental COVID vaccine. They don't want anyone seeing just how grisly the results are. Considering this is the crap that's floating around in the blood of everyone who got the Fauci injection, it's no surprise that life expectancy in the U.S. is plummeting at the fastest rate in history. In fact, from 2020 to 2021, life expectancy in the U.S. fell by nearly 3 years, meaning that people are dying prematurely at 35 times the rate they were before the vaccines were introduced. But these mystery deaths all have one thing in common, one common denominator. Every one of them received the new experimental vaccine. At some point, those responsible must be held accountable. The pharmaceutical giants who made these drugs, the media who pushed their propaganda, and the elected officials in Washington who made it illegal to refuse them. Until then, we, the people who trusted those officials, can only look on in horror and disbelief at the carnage being inflicted by the murderers we thought would save us.